Hey guys, what's up? So we are now in the second part of Epic Histories, the Rise of China series. Never in my life have I been more scared to keep going with a series than this one, as I mentioned near the end of last time, due to some things still kind of being hot topics this day. But you know what? We gotta press forward, and I am still really excited to just see how Epic History really does break down everything. Oh my gosh. Sorry, wait, let me get rid of that. Okay. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing how this all goes. Okay, audio's working. So, overall, yeah, let's just get right into it. If you want to watch the original video by Epic History, the link is down in the description down below. And, if you enjoy my channel and, want to help me out in any way, shape, or form, feel free to please like, comment, and subscribe. Maybe consider becoming a member, that would really help me out a lot. Now, with that said, and now without any further ado, let's get to it, shall we? Let's watch the second part of the Rise of China. Romance of the Three Kingdoms. The world under heaven, long divided, must unite. Long united, must divide. Thus it has been. Thus it has ever been. Yeah, this is actually I actually did read a little bit of the the Three Kingdoms. I was gonna say the Kingdom of Heaven. Sorry, that's like gonna be my next movie reaction, so that's kind of on my mind. But, yeah, overall, it is funny, because, there are jokes, with China, kind of like it kind of forming and then breaking, forming and breaking. I mean, granted, it happens to a lot of places in the world, actually. It's just, China kind of gets memed, I think, because of the Bill Warts video, The History of the World, where that's kind of the running joke. But, overall, yeah, it's just like constant unification and then dividing and then back to being reformed. I think it's just because China's been around like one of the oldest civilizations in the world, so that's probably why some things get like called out more, like in regard of that,
1925. 13 years after the abdication of China's last emperor, the country remains in turmoil. It is being torn apart by warring factions, with around 1.5 million men under arms. In the capital, Peking, millions mourn the death of revolutionary leader Sun Yat-sen, who had seemed to many to offer a brighter future. But his plan to defeat the warlords and unite the country under Kuomintang rule lives on in his successor, a 37-year-old party official, Chiang, better known in the West as Chiang Kai-shek. As commander of the Kuomintang's Whampoa Military Academy, Chiang has earned a reputation as a charismatic, effective, and ambitious leader. He attended military school in Japan, where he first met Sun Yat-sen and joined the revolutionary cause in 1908. At the time of Sun's death, much of China is dominated by warlords, an assortment of ambitious generals and regional leaders who command their own private armies and whose first loyalty is to themselves. The Kuomintang, also referred to as the Nationalists, control only the southern provinces of Guangxi and Guangdong, and its capital, Canton. To strengthen its position, they've made an uneasy alliance with the Communist Party to form the First United Front. This means they now receive support from the Soviet Union. But many Kuomintang members, including Chiang, are distrustful of Soviet intentions. His own recent visit to Russia has convinced him that communism is not suitable for China. Yet there is a widespread hunger for change in China. The people are fed up with the chaos, the warlords, and foreign interference. 1925 sees a rise in labor and anti-imperialist movements. When the multinational Shanghai police open fire on protesters, there are large-scale strikes in southern cities. The ranks of both the Kuomintang and Chinese Communist Party swell with new recruits. But the suspicion between these two unnatural allies lingers. And in 1926, Chiang decides to strike first. Alleging an imminent communist plot, he launches his own preemptive coup. He declares martial law in Canton and has political rivals and Soviet advisors arrested or expelled. He also expels communists from the Wampu Military Academy, including a rising star of the party, 28-year-old political commissar Zhou Enlai. Chiang's decisive action strengthens his grip on both the Kuomintang military and nationalist party. What's more, the Soviets, desperate to maintain any kind of influence in China, agree to continue their military support. The first united front is just about intact.
Wow.
Chiang will now set out.
Yeah, this is a very, on paper, on the map, definitely seems like a very big, underdog kind of situation. I mean, only holding the, this area compared to everything else and having to take that back, that's quite the endeavor. Like I said, I've been really, I remember as a teenager, I mentioned last video that I kind of, is when I first heard about like the warlord era and kind of encountered some of it in terms of like my own private Googling after like reading The Good Earth and whatnot. And it's something that I never fully got into because I got into other things. But yeah, I'm really happy that he's touching on this because I'm not gonna lie, I'm finally happy to see a video relating into exactly what the heck happened and, you know, just kind of like the split of China and then how it's gonna be reformed, though it's fractured at the moment. This is something that, you know, it feels funny. That was like 10 years ago when I first like learned about the warlord era. Now it's finally come full circle where I'm finally kind of getting a pretty good look. At least he's probably gonna probably get to it. I imagine there's a lot of complicated stuff that he can't fully touch on everything, as most wars are, but yeah, I'm actually really excited that he's touching on this subject. And yeah, him managing to like basically take this coup, regardless of if the Soviets were actually planning anything or not, he still struck first and managing to still keep the support. That's a pretty good start. I'm wondering if he's gonna be the one to, you know, kind of reunify China.
To fulfill Sun Yat-sen's dying aspiration, a northern expedition to defeat China's warlords and unite the country under Kuomintang rule.
This fight is important, not only because it will decide the fate of the warlords, but also whether the Chinese nation and race can restore their freedom and independence.
The most powerful warlord in the north is Zhang Zuolin. He controls the Beiyang government in Peking, which remains the internationally recognized government of China. In central China, the dominant figure is Wu Peifu, the Jade Marshal. His ally, Sun Chuanfang, controls several eastern provinces and the cities of Nanking and Shanghai. In the south, Chiang's forces, known as the National Revolutionary Army, are 100,000 strong. He knows that when he marches north, his men will be heavily outnumbered. But his troops are better trained, have some modern Soviet equipment, plus their own warlord allies, Li Zongren, Feng Yuxiang, and Yan Xishan. Chiang plans to take on the hostile warlords with a methodical northern advance. In the first months of the war, his northern expedition makes rapid.
Yeah, I was gonna say the 100,000 strong to me is like, huh, that doesn't seem so great on paper, especially after the numbers, insane numbers and statistics we've heard in this series already. It's like, oh wow, you know. But again, that I hadn't. I do realize now that yeah, having the Soviet whatever technology and support that the Soviets are giving is pretty big advantage, and also discipline. Numbers aren't everything, as we've covered so many times in this series. So many the greatest battles in history were won by the force that were like, you know, I guess without numerical superiority. Gargamella, Cannae, like it's not the size of your army; it's how you use it. So yeah. Okay, so yeah, better training, discipline, equipment, that can easily turn the tide.
Advances. By April, the Kuomintang control southern China's most important cities, including Wuhan, Shanghai, and Nanking. First, Wu Peifu, then Sun Chuanfang are driven from their strongholds. Zhang Zuolin alone holds out in the north.
My goodness.
Many warlord troops switch sides, swelling Chiang's National Revolutionary Army to a gigantic force, some 700,000 strong.
Oh wow.
Victory and a unified China seem within reach.
But China needs a Chinese Mussolini.
As National Revolutionary Army troops advance on Peking, tensions between its Kuomintang and communist factions resurface. Chiang Kai-shek is increasingly distrustful of his Soviet advisors and concerned at the communists' growing confidence. His suspicions appear to be confirmed as NRA troops approach Shanghai. A few days before their arrival, Zhou Enlai and other communists use a workers' uprising to seize control of the city. But Chiang has his own powerful connections in Shanghai. Du Yueshang, aka Big-Eared Du, triad leader and kingpin of the Shanghai underworld, and a personal ally of Chiang Kai-shek.
That's cool, the triads getting involved. You know, there was a point, like, a few years back where I kind of was interested in, like, mob stuff. Like, I kind of was, like, watching, like, the show The Sopranos and whatnot, and kind of looking into, like, you know, mob history and whatnot. And, it kind of led to, you know, looking into other criminal kind of illegal groups. Like, there's the cartels of Mexico, and then the Japanese Yakuza, I think it's what's pronounced, and then the triads of China is another one that popped up. Though I found that some of the stuff regarding the more inner workings of the triad were much harder to come across, because I guess they're pretty good at like being a bit more secretive than other groups. So it's interesting now that it's all coming back, because there was a point where I was like, wow, that's pretty interesting, like all these groups. So I was not expecting them to get involved.
In the early hours of the 12th of April 1927, Du orders his Green Gang to attack the communists and trade unionists who've taken over the city. Thousands of Shanghai workers take to the streets in protest. Chiang's Kuomintang troops open fire on them. Over the next days and weeks, some 12,000 communists are killed or disappeared in Shanghai alone.
Holy crap.
The first united front has ended in blood and betrayal. The Shanghai massacre is just the first of many purges in which the Kuomintang hunts down communists in territory they control. The communists react by
Yeah, don't mess with the triad. They managed to kill tens of thousands. Holy crap. Oh my goodness.
Orchestrating uprisings across the country. Zhou Enlai, who is lucky to escape Shanghai alive, leads an armed uprising against Kuomintang rule in Nanking. The following month, Mao Zedong leads the Autumn Harvest Uprising in Hunan and Jiangxi provinces. In December, a third uprising takes place in Canton. All three are swiftly crushed by Kuomintang forces. But there is no doubt that a brutal new front has opened in China's revolutionary struggles. As the communists fight for survival, Chiang's northern expedition resumes its advance. He now targets the last hostile warlord standing, Zhang Zuolin. On the 6th of June 1928, in a moment of great symbolism, Kuomintang troops enter Peking, the old imperial capital. Chiang retreats across the Great Wall into Manchuria, a region under heavy Japanese political and economic influence. There is also a large Japanese military presence here, the Guangdong Army. The Japanese have supported Chiang for several years, but now decide he has outlived his usefulness. As Chiang travels north by train, his carriage is destroyed by a massive bomb. It had
My goodness. Brutal, bro. Like, ruthless.
been planted by a Japanese officer. The Japanese military hope for better results from Zhang's 27-year-old son, Zhang Shuiliang. But the young marshal, as he becomes known, has his own ideas. In July, Zhang Jr. opens negotiations with the Kuomintang. In return for pledging allegiance to Chiang, he will hold on to his father's old power base in northeast China. Finally, after a decade of internal...
Not a bad deal, actually. Very smart, because obviously the writing's on the wall. Like, I don't think he would have been able to stop this northern expedition and its rapid advance. So, yeah, I guess just fall in line, get to still kind of keep influence over the area that your father ruled. Yeah, that sounds like a pretty good deal to me. I think that was pretty smart on his part. And overall, yeah, I have to say, the northern expedition seems to be a incredible success by the looks of this. Started off as the underdog on paper, but just, like, steamrolled through here.
struggle, China is unified, with a single flag, a single capital, and a single leader, Chiang Kai-shek. But it won't be long before he faces his first major revolt. In 1929, Chiang proposes a major reorganization of the National Revolutionary Army. He wants to halve its size from around 1.5 million men to 715,000, and split its troops into 65 divisions of 11,000 men. His generals, many of whom had previously served China's warlords, correctly see this as an attempt to undermine their power. A group of them form an anti-Chiang coalition and plunge China back into civil war.
Dang.
The Central Plains War, as it is known, pits Kuomintang forces against their former warlord allies. Around 1 million soldiers take part in the fighting. Chiang Kai-shek suffers a series of early setbacks, but eventually regains control, thanks to support from Zhang, the young marshal. Victory comes at huge human and economic cost. And after a generation of revolution and war, Chiang Kai-shek has once more stamped his military authority on the country. Now he faces the next daunting challenge: to transform the Republic of China into a united, prosperous, independent state.
Yeah, overall, I have to say that, yeah, on the battlefield, he was very competent. But there's that old saying that's kind of running through my head at the moment, that it's easier to conquer than govern. Or, conquering's easy, governing's harder. It's something of that same vein. So yeah, he definitely managed to win the wars and the battlefield, but like ruling that's the real challenge now, because boy, have all these people who try to take control of China just not been able to like hold it, because just new issues keep popping back up every 10 minutes, you know? So I'm interested in seeing if he'll be any bit successful in that realm. So, if we do not weed the present body of corruption, bribery, idleness, and ignorance, the day will soon come when the revolution will be started against us. It's true, we gotta fix things.
Chiang establishes his one-party government in Nanking, a former capital of the Ming dynasty. These years are known as the Nanking Decade, a period of sustained Kuomintang governance, across eastern China at least. In fact, the country's unity is paper-thin. Only Nanking and its surrounding area are under direct Kuomintang control. Most of the country is still governed by warlords, more or less loyal to Chiang's government. The communists, meanwhile, are down but not out, and form pockets of resistance throughout the country. In part,
yeah, his position, just by that explanation, he seems to be walking on a tightrope now. Like, very, volatile, I suppose. You know, and just one wrong misstep could easily shatter everything. So I do not envy, yeah, I don't envy that. That's a lot to hold on to, you know what I mean?
Chiang Kai-shek is referred to as the Commander-in-Chief, or Generalissimo, and becomes increasingly authoritarian. To unite the country around a homegrown alternative to communism, he launches the New Life movement, reviving Confucian ideas to fit the times. Chiang's wife, Song Mei-ling, US-educated and from a prominent Chinese Christian family, plays a leading role. The impact of the New Life movement is limited, but by the early 30s, parts of China are rapidly modernizing. New laws promote gender equality and protect women's rights in marriage and property ownership. Education continues to spread. Newspapers, magazines, and journals proliferate. New cinemas and theaters open. Infrastructure projects help the Chinese economy to industrialize. And there is huge foreign investment, especially from Japan.
Of course.
Though there are complaints of widespread corruption within Chiang's inner circle. And yet, 85% of China's population are peasants. Their lot has not improved since the time of the Qing. They remain desperately poor and benefit little from developments in cities like Nanking and Shanghai. Instead, many face a perfect storm of soil exhaustion, erosion, and rising rents.
Oh gosh.
They are largely ignored by the Kuomintang government, but not by the communists, who are actively spreading their message across the countryside.
The perfect storm for Yeah, that's the thing. For a second there, I was like, okay, some of these changes I'm kind of messing with, you know what I mean? Like I'm feeling this, and then it's like where things went bad, you're ignoring the majority of the population. Um, yeah, that's never good. You think that would be like the first thing people would realize? Okay, let's see. Why did all this happen? Well, the general populace was unhappy. So, I feel like I don't know, like I feel like in my head that's a no-brainer. All right, we got to make the people happy. How do we do this? Um, the majority at least, right? It seems like at least the way epic history is telling it, they don't seem to care about that, which kind of like, if true, if portrayed the way exactly he's saying it, then that kind of baffles me. Because you would think you would want to keep the general populace happy. Hmm. And again, the communist ideas, right? Like, oh, the people. That's a big thing with the communist ideas and the risings. It's like, oh yeah, the workers, the people, equality, um, all that, which is super. I could see why communism in the last century flourished as it did and became as prominent, because yeah, to the average Joe, these ideas sound great. You kidding me? Equality, the workers getting their way, like you kind of get me. So you can see why this stuff just blew up. It's more appealing to the common folk and who are already like dissatisfied, and then you have these guys talking about a much better idea under the banner of communism. Yeah, you could see easily why they'd be like, yeah, let's throw our lot in with these guys. Since nothing has changed for us, despite all the wars, this new government still doesn't care about us like the last one didn't, you know? So, yeah. I can see where it seems like he's not doing a good job, at least in that regard. You know.
To add to the woes of the rural poor, in 1931, catastrophic flooding devastates central and eastern China. The scale of death and destruction is almost unimaginable.
My gosh.
Estimates range from 1 to 4 million lives lost. It's one of the worst natural disasters in human history.
My goodness, bro. I'm telling you, every time I hear about the statistics of, like, Chinese war deaths and natural disasters, it's insane. Just always in the, like, nearing millions or at millions. I'm just like, holy crap. After a while, it's just like, how do you still have a population with all this death? Holy crap. Sometimes it amazes me, you know what I mean? But again, China's known for its vast population, but my goodness, man. Let's see. Yeah, I often heard about things like, in terms of a lot of Chinese history, the Yellow River, as it's called, flooding and just being a very, a lot of points in Chinese history, flooding and just being a very big issue for the Chinese. Holy crap, dude. That's awful. The Japanese are a disease of the skin. The communists are a disease of the heart.
While the Republic of China struggles with its many challenges, foreign rivals look to take advantage. For decades, Japan has been extending its territory and influence at the expense of neighbors. Now, against a backdrop of heightened militarism and nationalism, some in Japan see China as the obvious target for further imperial expansion. Japan already has enormous influence in northeast China and owns railways, factories and mines in the region. Now their sights are set on the conquest of all Manchuria, rich in resources that Japan lacks. On the night of the 18th of September 1931, outside the city of Mukden, an explosion destroys a section of the Japanese-controlled South Manchurian Railway. But it's a false flag operation. The bomb has been planted by rogue officers from the Japanese Guangdong Army to provide a pretext for the conquest of Manchuria.
That's devious.
Ignoring Chinese and international protests, Japanese forces attack. Within 3 months, their troops control most of northeastern China, driving back local Chinese forces commanded by Chiang, the young marshal. All of China is outraged, but Chiang Kai-shek will not be lured into a general war with Japan. Internal pacification before external resistance, he insists.
But, like, the war's kind of started already. That's the thing. They've already invaded your territory. Like, the war's kind of already started, especially in the Japanese mind, right? Like, I don't think this is just something you can just say, okay, we're not gonna have a war. Like, the war's already started, you know? No, I get it. Like, yeah, there's a lot of issues in China, but unfortunately, just, you're gonna have to, like, do both at the same time, in a sense. You're gonna have to, you know, hope that the Japanese don't go any further, because obviously they're expanding, and also while simultaneously handling that. I do not envy this position. This is way too much to fix. You know, and he's not, and in some ways he's not being all that successful, so I don't know.
His strategy will be to trade space for time, and he orders Chiang to retreat. Japan creates its own puppet state in northeast China, named Manchukuo. On the throne, the Japanese place China's deposed Qing emperor, Puyi, now 26 years old.
Has there ever in history been a long march like ours? No, never. The Long March is a manifesto.
As far as Chiang Kai-shek is concerned, it is the communists, not the Japanese, who pose the greatest threat to Kuomintang rule. Just 10,000 Communist Party members escaped the purges of 1927. Now they have regrouped in the Chinese countryside. Several Chinese Soviets, or regional governments, have formed in remote rural pockets across China. The most successful is the Jiangxi Soviet. Its chairman is Mao Zedong. The son of a wealthy farmer, Mao was a founding member of the Chinese Communist Party. Now he presides over the Jiangxi Soviet, where the communist leadership is based. It controls a total population of more than 3 million, with its own bank, currency, and tax system. But Mao is criticized by other party leaders for his ruthless purges of communist forces, and loses influence. Zhou Enlai takes over his role in the military leadership. The Jiangxi Soviet is the blueprint for a Chinese communist revolution. For the Kuomintang government, it is an existential threat. Chiang Kai-shek plans a series of encirclement campaigns to isolate and eradicate the communists. His troops face determined resistance from the Communist Red Army. The first, second, third, and fourth encirclement campaigns all fail.
Wow.
The war between these two sides is brutal and leads to suffering on a vast scale. Civilians, mostly peasants, find themselves caught between two ruthless forces who do not hesitate to carry out mass executions and torture and shoot anyone suspected of disloyalty. Victims include Mao's own wife, shot by the Kuomintang for refusing to denounce her husband. The death toll from this phase of China's civil war will never be known, but may be as high as 500,000. Finally, in September 1934, Chiang Kai-shek musters nearly 1 million men to surround, blockade, and destroy the Jiangxi Soviet. This time, the weakened communists cannot hold the line. They gradually lose ground until around 100,000 soldiers and civilians remain in a small area around Ruijin. The communist leadership takes the fateful decision to abandon Jiangxi and live to fight another day. Many are killed trying to break out of the Kuomintang trap. The survivors embark on an epic, year-long march led by Zhou Enlai and Mao Zedong. They cross some of China's most forbidding terrain, battling enemy forces, hunger and exhaustion along the way.
Wow.
Fewer than 1 in 10 of the Jiangxi communists complete the 6,000-mile march to Yan'an, where they...
Dang, no wonder it's called the Long March. That's insane. But the fact that they made it, actually, that's such an epic tale, not gonna lie. Like, getting through all that's like such great resolve and determination there. I can't help but like admire, kind of respect that.
meet up with communist comrades from around the country.
Oh wow.
This astonishing feat becomes a founding legend of the Chinese Communist Party. The Long March. Mao's leadership secures his place at the top of the party, at the expense of his Soviet-backed rivals. From now on, the party will follow Mao's vision, not Moscow's. For the moment, communist prospects look bleak. They have been decimated and are on the run. But their fortunes are about to take a dramatic turn.
Look at the map and note the smallness of Japan compared to China. Can anyone doubt that we shall triumph? Size doesn't always matter, my friend. Well, I'm sorry, I think I made that joke like twice already. But, either way, yeah, it is kind of funny, just how powerful, like, on the map, right, like, the UK had, like, the biggest empire on the world, yet they were just, you know, an island nation, and on map compared to other nations look small, but they ended up becoming the mightiest, right? So there are examples where, I don't know, I think it's I've been thinking about this, like, being an island nation in terms of defense is such a great advantage to have, you know, and moving out and having kind of a base that's not as easily touchable. I'm wondering, I feel like that has to play a part in some of the reasons why some island nations were able to get so powerful and whatnot. And again, the Japanese also, it's not just that, but also they adapted, modernized very efficiently, and very aggressive. So they had a lot going for them. But yeah.
December 1936. Chiang travels to Xi'an in northern China to visit Chiang, the young marshal. His troops are leading the fight against the communists in their new northern base. It's 8 years since Chiang's father had been assassinated by the Japanese. 3 years later, they'd driven his army out of Manchuria. He is infuriated by Chiang's refusal to challenge the Japanese, and he's come up with a bold plan. Chiang kidnaps Chiang Kai-shek and forces him to negotiate face-to-face with the communists.
Oh, dang.
Represented by Zhou Lai. After 2 weeks of...
Holy crap, that talk about a plot twist. Dude literally abducted him. Wow, okay. Oh my. Again, I think he's so obsessed with definitely the communist threat of it that he seems to be mainly, his mindset is just on the communist, right? And whatever threat they pose to him and his government, that he does seem to be kind of, at least the vibe I'm getting from this telling in the video, seems to be only really have his mind on that and nothing else. So, meanwhile, kind of like, kind of letting the Japanese get away with what they want, so I don't think he's wrong to like kind of see the Japanese as a threat. But again, like, yeah, the communists definitely will rise. So I think these two truths can be true, in a sense that like to their government, yeah, the Japanese and the communists are both, you know, going to be threats in some way. Though his aggression towards the communists as well definitely doesn't help either, huh? But then again, the communists might have still either way win to try to take power, so, you know.
Talks, Chiang Kai-shek gives in. Having promised to end the internal fighting and confront the Japanese, he is released. As soon as Chiang's safely back in Nanking, he has Chiang placed under house arrest. But on the crucial point, he keeps his word.
Oh, wow.
Chiang agrees to form an alliance with his communist enemies, a second united front, to take on Japan. On the night of the 7th of July 1937, a small detachment of Japanese soldiers demands to enter the walled town of Wanping, close to Peking, to search for a missing soldier. The Chinese garrison refuses. Tensions rise. A shot rings out from a Chinese position. Then, both sides open fire. One of the bloodiest wars of the 20th century has just begun. Do you want to watch unreleased new?
That's awesome. So yeah, I can't wait to see more about this tomorrow. So far I'm like really engaged. Like this is some great content. I'm so happy to kind of be seeing the steps that were taken by you know, China, because we did learn about this like back in high school. It's where I learned about this, mainly because of the rise of communism. Like, we kind of did study that post-World War II, you know, with the Soviets, and we obviously did touch upon China, but a lot of the focus really was on the USSR, you know, and the Soviets, and the Cold War, and etc., so it's cool to have a more in-depth look into what was going on as the steps towards, as China reaches to the point that it eventually becomes communist, and, you know, Mao Zedong becomes the leader. So it'll definitely be really interesting, and I'm looking forward to the next part, which is tomorrow. So yeah, I'll see you guys then. Bye, everyone.